woke up the next day and breakfast is served. You know, they kind of wake you up and they say, hey, breakfast, and you eat, you know, whatever it is that they make for you, toast, eggs, and then they pack up all the stuff. You know, you pack whatever you want to put in your bag, and then you're kind of off. And day 2 was really cool because, you know, it was one of those days where you got to kind of climb out of the jungle a little bit and get into the low brush, and you got to kind of look over, and you could like look down and see these other people climbing up way below you, and they look like these little ants. It felt like, you know, with each hour we climbed, we're getting into somewhat of a new terrain. And then eventually we made it up to Camp 2, and Camp 2 was like, I mean, the best way to explain it was almost kind of looked like a war zone. It was like the perfect playground for a photographer, and John was super excited as he's just snapping away. It was like he was a kid in a candy store.
I just remember these crazy clouds and at all different levels just blowing by as the sun set that night. And we kind of climbed up and explored some different places, and you know, I took like some time lapse as the clouds blew in and blew past these cairns. Some of these mountains, you spend so much time, you know, setting up, tearing down, cooking, boiling water. But, you know, on Kilimanjaro, since you have to have porters and guides, I mean, it gives you a lot more time to kind of go out and enjoy the scenery. I spent a lot of the time, you know, walking around asking if I could take people's portraits. I mean, the light was like just perfect for it that night. And I got, you know, I kind of went into their cook tent and hung out with them a little bit, which was really cool just to watch, you know, what these porters and guides do when they're basically like done, kind of done working. I mean, they're always working, but kind of done and relaxing for a little bit and chilling. And they're kind of, you know, telling jokes and laughing it up in this cook tent and watching them cook. It was really cool.
Moved on to the third camp the following day. Everyone was feeling really strong from our group. We got up pretty quickly again, and it was that camp was probably my favorite camp because we were able to like go to it almost felt like the edge of the world.
We're sitting in about 13,500, 14,000 feet, and the clouds are just rolling in. It's quite a campsite, to be honest with you. I've never seen probably anything like it.
Like we were able to go to like the edge of the rock where it just dropped off, you know, a good 1,500 feet or so, and I just remember the clouds coming in, and I was blown away by it because I'm like, these clouds are going to go right through me. It was a pretty cool experience just to be sort of in the clouds, and you know, see what we walk through, and at that point you could see Kilimanjaro too. So we kind of knew what was ahead of us, and we saw the big glacier that they had up there, and so we started to get it in our heads like, okay, we're actually going to probably make it, and we're getting to the point. You don't really think about this, like for me at least, I don't think about the summits until I actually start to see it and I get a little closer.
So on day 4, we woke up, ate breakfast, and then we took off. And I feel like day 4 was almost probably the sketchiest part of the climb. There was a couple spots where you had to make a couple maneuvers, and with the backpack on, it was a little difficult to kind of boulder and do some class 3, maybe class 4 stuff. But it wasn't too bad, but just something different that we hadn't done yet. And you know, we're doing it at 12 to 13,000 feet, so it's something where we didn't have as much oxygen as before. And it wasn't too long of a hike, but it was a good hike, you know, with some elevation climb. There was a big long stretch where it was just like a single path, and you can just see, you know, a mile away, you can see other people that were a mile in front of you, and then when you got up there, you could see people that were about a mile back. And right before you got to high camp, you had to climb quite a bit. So, you know, you've had this day of climbing and hiking, and then you get to this point where you know that at the top of it is the high camp, and you just got to kind of grind through it. But the cool part about it is that when you get up there, you can overlook on who's coming up the path, and you can see for a long ways as well.
We're at high camp, and it's 15,200 feet. Oxygen is thinner up here,
Of course, if you go up to 12,000 feet, it's going to be thinner, but we were kind of around 12,000 feet for 2 days. This is a new elevation for us. And we literally get here, we eat, we sleep a little bit, and then at midnight, we head up to the summit, which is over a 4,000 foot climb.
I remember my tent that I was sleeping in was caving in on my head. And I was like, is it raining that hard? Because it was lightning. So I pushed, away from the tent, and all this like heavy wet snow fell.
You hear like the thunder that seems like it's right next to you, and then you're just like, you feel the snow pelting, and you can hit the tent and the snow's just coming off, and we're just kind of thinking, where in the world is this coming from? And is this gonna mess with our summit?